Now, the story of Bob is a story of acceptance. And this goes back in the latest 80s when house music came on the scene together with ecstasy and other recreational drugs. And I remember it was amazing on the Adriatic coast of Italy and all through Europe. House music was big. It was the beginning. And so we used to follow these DJs, and there was an amazing time. And I met this guy. I remember meeting this guy, and his name was Bob, and we were clubbing and we were having a lot of fun. And so we spent a lot of time in the late 80s indulging and exploring the self within with the hallucinogenic and also the music, which has always been an element for explorations. Unfortunately, there were a lot of other heavier drugs on the scene, and one of them was heroin, and so Bob became addicted to heroin. And so he kind of disappeared from the scene for like a few years. He kind of went into what they call the underworld. As with heroin, obviously you lose really your ego self. You really don't care anymore what you do, where you go, how you dress. And so he was totally removed and lived totally for the heroin, which was quite sad. And I remember one stage, a couple of years later, I heard someone saying, "Oh, Bob apparently is going to get some help." And I said, "Oh, that's fantastic. What is he going to do?" And they said, "Oh, he's going to go to India to visit the guru, Satya Sai Baba, because apparently he's been helping a lot of people." And I remember reading something about Sai Baba as well. One of the books that I really like is called A Catholic Priest Meets Sai Baba, which I'll talk about it in a video. And so Bob went to India for about a month, and when he returned, he was pretty much back on it, on heroin. And again, I didn't have a chance to see him, but I heard people again saying apparently Bob is using, and apparently Sai Baba told him to just keep going, keep doing what he was doing, just go through that. And at the time I thought, well, that doesn't really make sense. How can someone give you an advice like that? I was like a bit mind-blowing at the time. I was thinking, wow, I couldn't figure it out. And I thought, maybe this is a scam, this guy, maybe it's just not real, maybe I take advantage. I don't know. There was things going through my mind. And then we kind of lost touch, and I moved to New Zealand in the 90s, and I knew that Bob was just carrying on, and he was a junkie. And probably would have been late 90s when I returned to Italy. And I remember bumping into him in a restaurant, and we just gave each other a big hug. And I said, "How are you?" And he said to me, I'm clean. We sat down and said, "Let's have a drink together." And he told me, I came home after that trip to India, and I just sat down and thought, this is my journey. I've got to accept this. I'm a junkie. And he says he just carried on. And he says that a year later, one morning, he gets up, and the same tears that his mum had often running down her face, that morning, they just had a huge impact on him. And he says, in that moment, I knew I was not a junkie anymore. And he says, everything changed. And he says, first I found work, and then I started my own company, and fell in love, and the kids. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. It's like so cool. I'm so happy for you. And so we had a great catch up. And then later I thought, wow, what lesson was that for me as well? At the time I was thinking, this didn't mean anything for him to do that trip. But actually now reflecting on that, there are some things that we really need to go through. Experience sometimes is just losing ourselves, and sometimes we do not see where the path is leading us. But that itself is part of the path. So with addiction, it is nothing to deny. I think you first need to accept that, and perhaps say to yourself that this is part of my journey, and this has served me, and maybe it's not served me anymore, and maybe this will end one day when I'm ready. And that did happen to him. And sometimes we put a time frame on these things, which, you want these things to happen immediately, but obviously had to take his course. And so that's a beautiful story of acceptance. Thank you for watching.